So today what I'm going to be doing is discussing some concepts about how to hopefully improve your MySQL performance. One of the difficulties is that my remote's not working. Okay. One of the difficulties is that as developers, we are so often focused upon this one here, number one. We just really, at the start of it, want to make it work. Our objective is to achieve the result. However, that's not necessarily the most sensible thing. In actual fact, what we need to do is we first of all need to make it work, and then we need to make it fast. The two are not mutually exclusive, and it's absolutely fantastic if you can achieve both results. That's pretty much covered.
Make it work well.
Your structure of your queries, as well as sometimes the structure of your database structure normalization. Okay. Any questions? No. Architecture. Architecture is actually quite important. One of the common things that as lazy developers we're usually doing is this. The MySQL is actually living on the same basic server. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that in a lower load environment. It's convenient, it's self-contained, you've got one virtual machine or one particular host that's just simply managing it all. You don't have to worry about it. However, then you get into an environment where you've got a higher load. You want to throw some much larger horsepower at your environment, and you go out and you buy yourself a big fat server and you make that your dedicated MySQL server. Once again, it's extremely valid. Usually it's the first step to actually trying to solve performance problems. There's a couple of other ways to go beyond these two examples, and one is to use a read-only and a write-only server. Okay, so the key advantage of this is scalability, performance. However, you don't. That's actually my apologies. That's actually not a key advantage. No locking for updates and inserts unless you build it into your application. No need for. My apologies. No need for locking or for updates and inserts. Okay, sorry, I've got myself wrong. Once again, it's possible to use slower hardware for writes and faster hardware for your read-only. If you've got an application where most of your database access for your user experience is actually going to be reads, then you've got the ability to use the same hardware because your writes are not going to be polluting your reads. However, if you've got a lot of stuff that's being written to the database as well as a lot of stuff that's being read from the database, then splitting them up is a totally valid option. So if you were to have your Lasso server, okay, that is actually reading from your MySQL server, writing to another MySQL server and replicating across to the read, that is an option. What that gives you is that your reads are as fast as you possibly can. Your writes are not interfering with your reads. You then get the ability to actually have, particularly if you've got a large quantity of data actually mostly being read, then you direct most of your administration or most of the area of your site that's doing the write to one particular server, and you serve your other content with another server. These are just examples, by the way. If you have an extremely busy environment, you can start to tailor your reads and your writes. So you've got your master over here and your two replications going over there. And once again, your administration side is primarily going to be this as an example. This is a particular way of doing things that one of my clients got me to research a lot. However, in the end, we we ended up by going away from this particular environment simply because of the fact that MySQL came up with this, is that we brought out the MySQL clustering, and it's hugely scalable. They state that you could do tens of thousands of transactions per second, and it comes in an open source version as well as then a more proprietary oriented commercial version. Availability, scalability, performance, failover. Who here has actually investigated or used clustering? Okay, so just one person. How did you find the clustering to actually implement?
Not that bad. In my case, we ended up not using it because they only had budget for like 3 servers in the cluster, which is the minimum, and it actually is slower at that level than not using clustering. But if you get up to around 7 or 8 servers, clustering is just lightning fast.
Okay. So just to reiterate that, Tom found that at the 3 server level, it was actually slower than a straight up access. As soon as you got to about the 7 or the 8 server mark, the MySQL cluster actually really came into its own.
You still get some advantages with data integrity and stuff over using a replicated scenario, but
yes,
if it's a lot harder to maintain a 3 cluster or a 3 node cluster that may fall over or is going to slow things down or putting that same money into other places. So.
Yep. Okay, so Tom, one of the other questions that I've got for you is, did you have that on a virtual or on a private network, or on the same, which behind?
Oh yeah, behind a firewall. Yeah.
Behind a firewall. Okay.
Yeah, not accessible from the outside at all.
Fantastic. Okay. So one of the key things that we find is that you can have many different lasso servers that are load balanced to access your database. However, if you've actually got a database that you are feeding lots of lasso servers from, then you're actually then coming back to still having a single point of failure. The MySQL cluster actually resolves that single point of failure issue, is that as soon as one goes down, your cluster is actually just simply going to keep going. And the theory lasso can actually just keep going as well, because it's not lost connection to its assigned MySQL instance. Okay. Fourthly, hardware. Good schema, optimized queries. Crap hardware. It's pretty obvious, epic fail. If you were to have hardware that was entirely unsuited to your environment that you were actually wanting to try and do, then regardless of how good your process with your configuration, how good your process was in terms of analysing your queries with your slow query log, how good your normalization has been, how much work you put into creating your views, all those sorts of things, they're going to be absolutely destroyed by putting it on hardware that is actually entirely inappropriate.